Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Date Yourself Instead. This is a very special episode because this is actually my very first guest video episode ever on the podcast. I'm very excited about it to have my friend Isabel here. She introduced me to the world of Kundalini. For those of you who've been following me on Instagram and on the podcast, you know that I've spoken about this concept a few times, but on today's episode, we're really going to cover what Kundalini is and what it's all about. And we're going to talk about how it's completely transformed my life and shifted my timeline to the point where I do not even recognize my old self anymore. It's been this insane journey. When I look back at pictures from my old self from like 4 months ago, I don't even recognize who I am. It's all because of this woman sitting next to me.
Aww.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Liz.
If you want to just introduce yourself and then we could just dive in.
Perfect. So my name's Isabel Keating, and I'm working right now as an energy worker and Kundalini activation facilitator in Bali. I come from an interesting path of working at a corporate hedge fund for over 3 years, and then kind of found myself searching for something more and looking for a way that I could heal myself and best share my mission and my talents with the world. So like many people, I ended up in Bali on kind of a solo adventure, a solo healing journey. When I discovered Kundalini energy, it just completely changed, transformed, flipped my life upside down, was the catalyst for really bringing us together here today, and we'll dive more into what the energy is, but yeah, it's been like a beautiful wild ride, and it's only just starting for many people around the world. So
yeah, it's so insane, and I never would have expected that I would be talking about it, even because I didn't even know what it was until May of this year. It's still very new to me as a concept, and yeah, it's just been so crazy to watch people's transformation and then seeing my own transformation and then looking back at myself from January of this year. I don't even know who that person is. And it's all because of just changing your internal energy state and actually doing the work to heal on like an internal level versus seeking external validation. Yeah. I've tried literally everything. Like I've tried every form of therapy, and I've done so much inner work on myself prior to meeting you. And I feel like this has obviously been one of the biggest game changers so far that I've seen. I feel like no one really knows what it is still. Right. It's still a very new thing that people are just discovering and waking up to now. I'm excited to dive in and yeah.
Yeah, I was the same as you. I did therapy for many years, like 8 or 9 years of therapy. I went to many different doctors, psychologists, general internists, rheumatologists, female doctors, like everything, because I just had a lot of trapped pain in my body from just things that I hadn't processed from a whole lifetime. And like acupuncture, again, body work, massage. But then with the first Kundalini session I did, it's like you can work through things in 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours that take like 8 years in therapy. And I think when you do a lot of that inner work before, it's really supportive and it's helpful because these things will kind of come up. I remember when I met you, you told me you did a lot of EFT tapping and you had done so much inner work and therapy and this and that, which is all great. But then it's like when you meet this energy, you realize you need to heal from within and from the body, and you need to heal your energy. And yeah, it's just like you look totally different from when I first met you.
I know. I really do. I really do.
In the best
look at
way.
Old pictures and I'm like, what is going on? Like, how is that even possible? And I've gotten messages from people being like, what plastic surgery have you done recently? And I'm like, I literally didn't do any surgery. It's just changing your internal energy state. It makes you look like you have a facelift, as you always say. People don't believe me. I'm like, I swear to you, I haven't done anything different other than I've mentioned like certain things on an episode, the work I've had done. But since then, I haven't done anything. And just being here and being in Bali, the energy itself, like the island is so magical, and it just does so many things physically to you. I feel like I've had a major glow up since I've arrived.
Absolutely. Bali is super feminine energy, right? So people are always like, everyone's so hot in Bali. Yeah. Bali is feminine energy, feminine magic. The men are beautiful, the women are beautiful. You just get this inner glow. And then when you combine it with Kundalini, which I understand we still haven't explained yet, like what it is. I can always tell someone who's done a lot of inner work or a lot of spiritual work because they literally just look different. Like
Yeah.
there's just something different about their eyes, about their face, the glow. And like, it's better than Botox, ladies. It's just like,
It's like the secret above Botox
Yeah.
and what pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know
Yeah, of
and
course.
the beauty industry doesn't want you to know is that if you do internal energy work, you will look so radiant and so
Yeah.
beautiful and your skin will glow and people will be like, what work have you had done?
Yeah.
And that's
the
literally
inner work, that's the work I
Yeah,
had
it's
done.
it's the inner work. It's the inner work. It's so insane to me. I've done Botox and fillers for 7 years.
Yeah.
And no one ever said anything to me like, oh, you're glowing. Oh,
Right.
you look different. Oh, like, what changed? You look so good. No one's ever commented before. And after doing so much healing work on myself and doing Kundalini and other things combined, people literally will be like, whoa, you look so different. And it's all energy. It's really all energy.
is.
Your aura literally changes colors. Like I feel like I went
Literally.
from gray to gold.
I know that photo is insane. It literally is
Yeah.
gray and then gold.
Yeah.
Same with myself. Like I look completely different. My teacher, Rebecca, who initiated me into Kundalini, and she's wonderful. She said the same thing. She was like, I was looking at photos of you from when I started this, like early last year to now. And she's like, you look like a different person. And again, I feel like you come to this kind of work, this kind of deep healing when you're at a breaking point. Everyone does, right? You're at your rock bottom, you're at your lowest, and you're just like, anything, like I will do anything to get out of this.
Yeah.
It's not about how you look, it's about how you feel. But then when you look back all the, 8, 9, 10, 11 months later, you're like, oh my God, I also look amazing. And
Yeah.
people are literally getting in motorbike accidents trying to like crane their neck.
Guys, like every time I'm like riding on a scooter or I see someone riding on a scooter, people just stare at you here. I walked into a cafe the other day and there was a group of men sitting at a table. These things don't usually happen to me, okay? But I do feel like it is an internal thing too because I feel so much more confident about myself. I'm radiating more confidence. I'm radiating a different energy and a different frequency. So when I walk into places, it naturally just draws people in because
Absolutely.
you become more magnetic. I walked into this cafe and there was a group of men just sitting at a table all eating and talking and all of them stopped talking at the same time. I'm not saying it in a conceited way. I'm not. But it was like they all turned their heads and just dropped what they were doing and dropped their conversation. They were like staring me down. And I just started laughing. I just started laughing and sat down and like just was minding my own business. But it was so obvious that
I think
something had shifted.
I think it's funny when they stop. You'll walk past men and then they just stop talking, and you're like, I can hear that. Like I can hear that as I just walk past you, just stop your conversation. They have no words, but it happens because it is true. So we can talk about this on the energetic level. Everyone is sensitive to energy. Like you don't have to be an energy healer or energy worker. People are sensitive to it to varying degrees. If you're changing your energy on a subtle level, the people around you, they really notice. That's why it's like the changes in your face or the changes in your eyes or how you carry yourself. Like it's very subtle, but it's very powerful. And when you emanate and you radiate that kind of love and that kind of self-light, the people literally can feel it because when we think about energy work, there's a law of resonance. So everything has to resonate with each other. So that's why with some people, you walk away from a conversation just feeling like uplifted and your cup is full. Because if they're vibrating very high, maybe they're bringing you up to their level. But if you're speaking with someone who is just an energy vampire, they're constantly complaining, they're negative, they're in victim mindset, they're filled with toxicity, blah, 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 and you walk away feeling like sick inside because if they're vibrating lower than you have to go down to meet them and they have to come up to meet you. And so when you walk into these situations, you're vibrating so high, instantly everyone is lifted up in your presence. And that's also how when you do a lot of work on yourself, when you work with Kundalini energy, when you enhance and improve your energy in general, just your presence becomes something that reverberates out to people that can heal them because it's bringing them up to a different level that maybe they never felt before.
Yeah, it's so true. I always talk about energy vampires too because I've experienced this so many times.
Yeah.
Even all of my toxic ex-boyfriends, they had always brought me down to their level.
Totally.
And they've always had this way of capturing me when I was at my most powerful and I would feel so good. I would feel so in alignment. I was working on my purpose. I was like in flow and just vibrating really high. And then I would meet a guy and they would see that and they'd want my energy,
course.
because they're like, oh my God, this girl is glowing. She has her shit together. She has her life in order. And I want a piece of that. In my head, I was like, oh, they're obsessed with me. But in reality, they were obsessed with my energy. And
course.
they just wanted to be around my energy. I became so protective of my energy field. And now like doing the inner work, doing Kundalini and doing other practices like the ones in my masterclass, I'm going to plug it, my Mind, Body, Soul Reset masterclass. It's completely changed the way I'm able to interact. Even if someone is an energy vampire, I have that shield around me, so it's not affecting me, and they're not able to drain me. They're not able to get into my vortex, or they're not able to access me anymore.
No.
And it's the most beautiful thing, because I feel like I used to feel bad if I wasn't giving someone my time or attention. But the second I feel off around someone, or I feel anxious, or I feel drained, I'm immediately like, no, absolutely not. You're not allowed in my space.
No.
And that's it. And I have a very firm boundary with people now. And it's changed my life. It gives you more opportunity to just harness your own power when you're able to easily cut out those vampires. And it's all about doing the inner work to make sure that you're strong enough to handle people like that, because there's a lot of them out there.
A lot. I'm sure every
There's
single
a lot of
person
them.
listening just thought of like that one person in their life, or those people in their lives, or their exes, or even a current relationship. And the one thing I'll say that I think can be helpful for people to understand, for women to understand, is that as women, we are healing just with our presence, just with our energy, because we are the divine givers of life. If you think about even the anatomy, we are the socket, we are the chargers, right? I always think about this. Why are men so obsessed with women? What's the real reason? Why are men always chasing after women, constantly needing the attention of women? Because it charges them. It gives them like electricity. It gives them life, really. Why?
It does, yeah.
Like they want to be in your presence because you give them what they don't. If they don't have it, if they're lower than you, if they're energy vampire, it's like, you think about it, you walk past a table at wherever you are, bar, restaurant, and like men, they're like ogling to make eye contact with you. Why eye contact? Because eye contact is healing, right? Why sex with a woman? It's not just about ejaculation. Sex is healing. It's healing for them. Being in your presence is healing for them. That's what they want. And so they get like addicted to this feeling of being in your presence. They want to feel healed. And then with us, when we don't know how to protect our energy, we're just constantly giving it away for free, giving away, not getting anything back. And they walk away with all of our energy, with being charged with this frequency of women are powerful. A lot of the women too who are taken advantage of by these vampires, it's like they're kind-hearted, pure people. And
it's always like the most empathetic,
Yeah.
loving, hardworking, successful women. And we were talking about this in London, because I had a situation where I've talked about this on the podcast. For those of you who've listened to the episode, How to Stop Being Nice. It's an episode about a guy that I had a very short-term situation with. He literally said to me, like, when I'm around you, I feel so much better about myself, and you make me feel so good about myself. And I was thinking in my head, you make me feel like fucking shit. Like, you literally make me feel the opposite of that. So there's something off here, clearly, because if I'm validating you and charging you, and you're depleting me, you're obviously just not the right match for me.
Right.
And you're probably not a great person, because the right person I would know would be a good person, because I'm very good at sensing people's character.
Yeah, you're very good.
I'm really, really, really nice. I really am. And I'm really empathetic, and I try not to judge anyone. But when I feel like shit around you, I know that your intentions are probably not in a good place. I know that I would align myself with the right people, because I am a good person. So if I don't feel good, I know that you're not a good person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And again, like you're up here, he was down here. So when you guys came together, it was like you had to everything has to come back to middle ground. And then he raised up. So he's like, I feel amazing.
Yeah. Oh, he felt so good. He was like on top of the world and was bragging about me to everyone. And I have no shame talking about this anymore, because I used to be like, oh, I'm going to be, as I said, like, I'm very nice and I try to protect people's
Not
feelings.
anymore.
No. There's a difference between being a bitch, which I'm not, and having firm boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned that now. Like, I'm always going to speak my truth, and I'm always going to say what really happened. And this is what really happened.
Yeah.
And that was just one example. You know, I didn't have strong feelings for him, so I got over that in like 2 days. But it was the principle and what I went through and how, you know, violently your power can get stripped away from someone that you don't even know that well, or you don't even have a deep connection with, but they are so willing to suck your energy because they are a vampire. Like
Yeah.
they literally come to this earth to take this sounds so dramatic, but I really do believe there's certain people here that I'm not the only person that's happened to with that person. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's encountered so many other women and done the same thing to
Probably
them.
every woman that he's been with.
Even the stories he would tell me, he's like, I lose feelings really quick and I move on really quick and I detach really quick and I don't really care. And he was telling me these horrible stories of things he did to like abandon his ex-girlfriend. And in my head, I'm like, no, this is just who you are. I'm not the only person you've done this to. So now it's my mission to protect people and share my stories so I can actually just help people, because it is fucked up. It's like, we are so good. We have pure intentions. And then there's people out there that are willing to just take advantage of that completely. And it's time to expose the frauds.
Yes.
Expose the
We're
frauds.
exposing all of the frauds.
We have a movement going now called Expose the Frauds 2025.
It's going to be huge in 2025, but like actually it is.
I'm like,
you're going to start it.
No,
You should.
I'm literally trademarking it.
Start now, because I looked into it. It takes right now the trademark office is taking 8 months to approve things. So
guys, Expose the Frauds 2025. Mark my words, is going to be the movement.
But it's true. I mean, it's happening. So I'm sure there's so many astrology girlies listening, but many of you might know that, Pluto is moving direct now. I guess by the time this comes out, Pluto will be in Aquarius. The last time that we saw Pluto in Aquarius was, and at the end of Capricorn, where it is today, was the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution. Many, many things began completely changing. It was like power back to the people again.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow. I'm excited.
That was the last time, 286 years ago or something. And so that's why everyone sort of feels this like stirring inside. And again, we'll see it in our own lives, because first you see it in your own reality before I think you can kind of, you need to heal your own stuff first, because that's going to cloud your perception. But once you do, and once you reach this, dare I say, higher level of consciousness, you sort of step out and you can see how everything is reverberating on a collective level. It's positive because you'll feel less alone, like in your story or in your struggles, and you'll sort of see this is something that we're all going through right now as a collective and in humanity. And so, exposing the fraud, protecting your energy, just trusting. I know it can feel so helpless at times, but we talk about this all the time. The good people, the good-hearted people, like really are winning and are going to win and are going to take back their voices and their power. Again, it starts on an individual level of healing our heartbreak and healing our codependency and healing attachment issues. When you really, really do the inner work, these types of vampires, these types of people, to tell you the truth, they don't even enter. They don't even come near you. It's like you said, your energy is so strong and so protected. It's like it literally can't get in. Like it hits and then it just falls flat. And that's what the goal is ultimately. You can do all these practices and you can work through so many things in therapy, but once you really just make the decision to change what you allow in, your aura, your energy, it does the work for you. That's that Kundalini fire, which we'll talk about. Like that's that Kundalini fire within, which alchemizes, changes, transmutes, and just protects you on the most extreme level that you can imagine.
Yeah, it really is the ultimate game changer. And now I think we'll transition into what it is, because people are probably so eager to know now that we've talked so highly of this energy. Do you want to just give a little insight how you discovered Kundalini, and then what it is and what it does to the body?
So Kundalini energy is the divine life force energy that lives in every single person at the base of the spine. So it lives in the root chakra and it's coiled up like a serpent. This is our divine life force. So everyone has Kundalini. It is why we breathe, why we're alive. This is your creative life force. This is, if you've ever had a moment of like just pure flow. I'm like shaking already because it's running through me.
I feel it too.
Yeah.
As we're talking about it.
Yeah,
it's
very, very
My chest
powerful.
is like on fire right now.
Yeah, it's very powerful. So if you've had a moment of like deep grief or deep trauma or deep joy or falling in love or making love or just, those kind of moments of otherworldly like energy that you're able to tap into. That's the Kundalini energy, okay? We didn't know about it because for a long time, this energy it's been kind of gatekept by the spiritual community, by certain spiritual people, because it was believed that you had to do a lot of sitting in meditation, and you had to do, a lot of deep meditation. You had to work with a guru and receive a secret type of initiation. But as we move into this age of Aquarius, Kundalini energy is spreading like wildfire. The reason being is when you're able to access this energy, and I can talk about how we do that, when you're able to access it, everything in your life changes. You become a force of good in the world. You become a force of healing. It blasts through your own traumas, your own limitations, anything that is of a lesser or lower vibration that lives in the body and that lives in the system. When Kundalini begins to rise, the body begins to shift and clear that out. Because in order to hold this new frequency of just like light, of power, of creativity, of divine essence, you need to be a clear channel. That's why a lot of times if you have seen videos of Kundalini activations online, you'll see people screaming or moving in certain ways because it can be quite intense as, again, these things have to shift physically out of the body. It's fire energy, it's sexual energy, it's your creative energy, it is life-giving energy. All of life exists because of Kundalini energy. And so when we aim to activate it by working with a specific frequency that has the ability to stimulate your Kundalini energy inside, when we do the healings, I'm not giving you my Kundalini energy. I'm providing a frequency, I'm providing a resonance that your body begins to resonate with. And it's so powerful and so strong that your Kundalini will begin to rise from the base of the spine. And again, it goes systematically. So it goes from base up, chakra by chakra by chakra. To just be very clear as well, it can be a challenging path because you have to be willing to face your own shadows and to face your traumas and to face the parts of yourself that you really don't like and that you really might actually hate. You have to forgive yourself, forgive other people. It really it opens up a whole new world. It changes your consciousness. It heals traumas from the deepest level. You don't even need to know the story. You just know that it's moving through the body. It can be quite emotional and it can be quite intense.
It's definitely, it's super intense. And that's the other thing I do want to touch on, just because I think there's so much beauty to it, but there's also the other side of like, you need to be willing to commit to doing the hard parts of it and the work. When I first met Isabel, which I guess I'll tell the story and transition into this, I had just found out that my ex-boyfriend of 4 years was living a double life, and he was doing the worst things you could probably do to someone in a relationship behind my back, and I had no idea, and I was blind to it for so many years. All of this truth started coming out when I was living in Sydney. We hadn't been in a relationship, but he was still in contact with me. He was still telling me I was his wife, his future wife, and the mother of his children one day, and he was painting this picture of a future of hope. Your gut always knows that something's severely off with someone, but I always went back to him whenever I had tried to move on and things didn't work out with someone else. He was always like my safe person. You know what I mean? Where he's like, I would never do anything to intentionally hurt you. One day we're going to get married, XYZ, all that shit and garbage that now I'm looking back. Obviously, there were so many red flags, and I found all this information out, and I kept getting signs after that to go to Bali. I end up going to Bali, and on one of the last days of my trip here, I was still obviously not doing well. I was doing my best to heal and doing healing things and going to tarot card readers and going to the beach, but I kind of asked God, can you please guide me to something that's actually going to help me? I'm still feeling terrible, obviously, after everything that happened. It was just so heavy. And I just get this message from this
angel,
like random woman that follows me. She just sends me Isabel's Instagram and was like, you need to go to her. She just sent me the DM and disappeared off the face of the earth. I didn't know where the message went. I just I was like, my intuition was just like, yeah, let me go. I don't take recommendations lightly because I'm very picky with like
Yeah.
energy work. Obviously, it's a big deal and it's a big step, and you don't want to do energy work with someone that's like a fraud.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot
you
of
don't want to
them.
do it with just anyone.
There's a lot of frauds in Bali. I don't want to say in Bali, but like there are people who disguise themselves as healers, and they're just
Yes.
their energy is not in a good place. So I'm very particular with that because I don't want to be in someone's energy that is going to bring me down, as we talked about earlier. And then I ended up meeting you, and then I did Kundalini for the first time. I had no idea what I was getting myself into at all. I was literally like,
Did you think it was a yoga class?
I thought it was some deep meditation, maybe. I really didn't know. I didn't even do any research. This woman just told me to go, and I'm like, okay, sure. So I end up going to the studio, laid on the mat, and nothing happened. I literally was just laying there. I didn't move. I didn't cry. Nothing.
No, you were
people
like
around.
fidgeting.
Yeah,
I
was
remember the
fidgeting
first
because I
one.
was really uncomfortable because I didn't know what to expect. And Kundalini can be really like looked at as weird almost if you are just seeing it from the outside and you
Yeah.
have no idea what it is. And there were people next to me screaming and crying, and I was so startled. I was like, what is happening? What is happening in this room right now? I was kind of frozen because I was so uncomfortable and there
Yeah.
was so much like stuck energy, and I laid there and I was like, okay, that was interesting. And then I walked out. I was like, oh, I don't feel anything. I
Right.
didn't feel anything. I was like, what was that? That was really weird. So I go get dinner, and then I remember you like briefly mentioned, oh, you know, you might feel some things come up in the middle of the night. It's very active. I just like didn't even acknowledge anything. I was like, whatever, that was just a healing thing, and I'm going to move on with my life.
So you thought.
I literally was like, I'm just done. Oh, that was a cool experience. I'm ready to go home. I'm done. 3:00 in the morning that night, I wake up bawling my eyes out to the point where I couldn't breathe. All of these emotions just started coming out of my body. And I was like, oh my God, something happened to me. I felt like just a waterfall of everything that I've ever been through over the last 4 years, just
Yeah.
like pouring out of me at 3:00 in the morning. I was like literally hyperventilating. I think when you aren't aware of what it's doing to you and you're just going in blindly,
Yeah.
it's probably not the best thing because
No.
you don't expect you don't expect your emotions to come out like that. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Anyways, I was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. And then, and then I was sitting on the beach the next day, and we just bump into each other by chance. That was the craziest moment because it was the last thing I ever expected. And I had like sworn off this energy. I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. That was crazy. And then I bump into Isabel, and she was like, come back. You need to come back. And I told her what had happened. And I was like, I had the worst night. I was crying all night. And she's like, no, like it's working. You need to come back. And ever since then.
Wow. And then you came back the next day, and then you had your flight like the day after that.
Yeah. But ever since then, my life had changed because it was literally the universe being like, this is good. Even though you're going
Yeah.
through all the worst of it right now and you're releasing all this pain and trauma, you need to release it. Or otherwise you're never going to get to the next level of your
No.
life. You're never going to transform in the ways you want to. You're never going to ascend timelines and release this so you can be the best you could be.
Yep.
And it was like God pushing me to grow and heal. I wouldn't be able to be sitting here doing the work that I've done and my podcast and everything I'm doing if I hadn't addressed my shadow side
Yeah.
and my fears. And I didn't realize how much I needed to let go of certain things. I didn't realize how much I was storing until I started doing this work. It's been the craziest ride ever since, but it's been the most rewarding at the same time. It's not easy, but it's
No.
like the best thing I've done for myself long term, for sure.
It's amazing, and it's not easy. And like, I'll never say to anyone that it is. You see the results and you see the glow, and you can see how people's lives change. The manifestations, they come through so quickly because you become a clear channel, because you're clearing out these things that have weighed you down, that live in your body. You'll see people losing large amounts of weight because it's this weight that they've been carrying, that these things that have been weighing them down. You really do have to be brave, and you have to be committed to being honestly a spiritual warrior. Like you said yourself, we had a really, really deep session the other day. You texted me and you were like, I feel like I just went to spiritual war. And it's like,
I did.
yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You like went to war and back, and I've had that too. This energy, the thing about her is she's destructive, because anything that is not of the highest path, of the highest vibration, of the highest truth, she will destroy. She will, if you're ready for that. And the energy came into my life in a similar way too, where I had all these dreams and these goals and these plans and these visions since I was a little girl, right? And it kind of came to a turning point where it was like, I was turning 27 and I was like, okay, am I really who I say I am? This is no longer the moment where I just dream about all these things. It's like, what am I going to do? And so this energy Kundalini came into my life, and everything around me just started burning down, because that path that once served me, it didn't serve me any longer. I couldn't keep going down it. I had already learned all the lessons. I did everything. And so it's time to, like you say, jump timelines and do something new. The pain and the shadow that it takes you through is all for the reason of being able to alchemize it and turn it into the highest light for your own life.
This year, after doing this work and, committing to healing in so many different ways, when I decided to leave my apartment in New York, I kept going back and forth, because it could put you in a place of being so out of your comfort, because you're like literally burning down your life to the ground. And I kept having these visuals of my apartment literally burning down. I would lay down at night and see my apartment burning around me. I kept literally visualizing my bed on fire and me just laying there. And I was like, this is really insane. I woke up one night after thinking about that, and I go to your Instagram story, and there's just an emoji of a house burning down to the ground. And you're like, oh, this is the year of, burning your life to the ground or whatever. And I'm like, what? Like, we are so connected. And that was the craziest thing. It was such a clear sign for me that I was making the right choice, because I was going back and forth for so long. Am I making the right decision by like leaving everything behind, by selling all my furniture, by literally letting go of my old self completely, to the point where I'm not even going to live in New York? It felt like I was leaving a 15-year cycle behind. And it was so terrifying. I was having so much anxiety, because I'm like, what is happening right now? But now, 2 months later, I'm a different person in just 2 months. It doesn't take that long to transform your energy state. And I don't even recognize myself from 2 months ago. It does not take that long to completely change your life around and transform. And I was looking at pictures from when I was back in New York and videos 2 months ago, and I look swollen, bloated. My hair just, like, everything just looked dull and gray. And being here, I see it for myself. I'm like, I'm radiating at a different frequency. It's the craziest thing.
I had the same, I mean, it's, your glow, it's like undeniable. It's just, and the amazing thing.
When I met you too, though, I was like, whoa. Like when I met you, I remember I was like, you glow. Aww. People who do this work, they do have a different glow. Yeah. Like you look like you've gone through AI. like an AI
I'm
filter.
my own AI. I'm my own AI.
You have like the AI filter on. Well, it's also true. I was sending new potential podcast covers to my friends in a group chat, and they're like, you look like AI.
You do. In the photo shoot you just did, I know.
I kind of can't even edit my photos, because when I edit them, I do look AI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is crazy, because I haven't done anything differently. It's not like I went and got a facelift. I haven't done anything differently.
No, it's like really when you do this work, and again, when you just let go, when you finally shed the layers of baggage and guilt and shame and trauma and abuse and like low self-worth, everything, it weighs on us so heavy. You literally do get a facelift, because you see it. The face is a microcosm of the entire body and of the entire spirit. The face is very powerful. Eyes are very powerful. Like head, brain, everything. This is something I'm thinking about a lot lately. But it's like you just are lifted. It's like the lines just go away, the inflammation just falls away. And yeah, you see it again, you really see it. I notice it in a lot of the girlies who come up on my TikTok who are doing their tarot and, you know, preaching their truth. And I'll look at them and I'm like, wow, energy doesn't lie. Exposing the frauds is about to be so easy because now that we're all getting more and more sensitive to energy as these times are changing, it's like, we know, you know, because words mean nothing. How do the eyes look? How does the face look? What is the vibration that they're emanating? Because again, we're all becoming very, very sensitive light beings now in this time.
The people are waking up.
The people are waking up.
The people are really waking up. I just noticed it collectively, globally. Everything is drastically changing, and I think everyone feels it. My whole algorithm is pretty positive. But like even on TikTok, everyone's like, I just woke up feeling different. I have more hope for the future lately and things are changing. And I'm like, I feel the same way. Like when I wake up, I have this like surge of excitement that's just different from the last 4 years or the last 8 years even. I feel like for 15 years, the world is that how long Pluto's been in Capricorn? How long has it been in Capricorn?
Since 2008. So Capricorn is all about top-down structure, hierarchy, power over. 2008, we began the financial crisis. And again, you'll see since we were kids in 2008, everything has been about power and companies and capitalism and corporate and the man, and it's changing now.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And now I see so many people coming forward with their stories about abuse in relationships and narcissism. It's like so important to share those stories and expose the truth of people that will like literally they get off on your suffering.
Yeah.
And that might sound a little extreme, but it's really what's happening.
Yeah.
Like these people thrive off of your suffering.
Yeah.
And they take your power and they run with it and they think it's like exciting to them to see you crumble. And I don't want that to ever happen to anyone ever again. It's a mission of mine. It's just so important to talk about, to protect your energy so deeply so that those people, they're going to be the ones that crumble. It's going to like reverse completely. I think 2025 is going to be the year where we're going to see everyone we know doesn't have good intentions crumble, like crumble cookies.
Literally. And yeah, to change your energy and also to spend this time to deeply heal within and to deeply question, because I've been there too. I had my own, we call it the never again guy, right? Or the never again moment. I had my own one of like, never again, and actually meaning it. And I was actually like, no, never, ever again will someone make me feel this way. Never again is this going to happen. And that is really what catalyzed doing this deep, like, why did I, and taking responsibility for your own healing and your own life and being like, why did I let that happen? Why did I let that in? Why did I let someone treat me like that? Why do I think that's what I deserve? And you go back and you go deep inside. A lot of times it goes back to childhood. A lot of times. Something I always say to women who come through, and especially if they're doing this healing work after a really challenging breakup or surviving narcissistic abuse, and I'll say a breakup is when you go through something very challenging and when you go through a relationship that was challenging and you end it, those emotions, they're right underneath the surface. You just went through a breakup, you're heartbroken, you're sad, all these things. So we're comfortable understanding those emotions and feeling them. But it's like, when was the first time you really felt that way? How old were you when you felt that type of low self-worth or abandonment or abuse? Try to tap into that, because this man, it's rarely like about the man. The man is a reflection of our own wound that we need to heal. And that's why Kundalini healing is so powerful, because you don't need to talk about it. You don't need the story. You don't need to, hash it out in therapy. It's helpful if you do that leading up to this work or in conjunction with this work. But it's like, we're going to release it from the body where it was stuck from when you were 5 years old or 6 years old or 7 years old.
Oh, it just gives me chills.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
Because the men are they're reflections of our self-worth. And that's why, women who, like, we need to do so many episodes because there's so many things to talk about.
Like, I feel like we could talk forever about it. every guy that I've dated, I've often seen these things in them that I see in myself, and it's like reflected back to me, and it's a mirror. And I've always had this fear of permanence. I'd always date guys that I knew it wasn't going to last. I knew it in the back of my mind, even though I was like, oh, this guy's amazing and the relationship's going well, whatever. There was always a degree of I knew it was going to be short-lived because I would go for the people that were they were available where they would be in a relationship with me, but they were unattainable in the sense of like fully locked down, committed, because there were religious barriers or there were location issues where like I was in one country, they were in another. It was always something that was like this slight form of self-sabotage because I wasn't healing the right things. Like I was just blaming. I was like, oh, this guy's shit, this guy's this, but it really is all you pushed out. And this work has shown me that more than ever. It's nice now because I know the next person that I actually allow into my space is going to be way healthier, way more in alignment with me, and it's not going to be a repeat of my past toxic cycles, which is beautiful. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the crazy, I guess, synchronicity of you. So Isabel lives in Bali full time, and I was living in New York, but we just happened to be going to London at the same time because you were going to see
Taylor.
You were going to see Taylor Swift. She's like a massive, massive Taylor Swift fan. And I love Taylor Swift, and I was thinking about going as well. But I was also seeing this guy that was living in London, and I ended up going back to London to see him and also to just see you and see other people that I'm friends with there. But 2 days into the trip, he just was like, basically, okay, how
say
do I
what
tell the
happened?
story? Yeah,
because so I believe that the frequency of Taylor Swift and her own Kundalini energy, which is a whole other story, brought us to London at the same time. We were just going to meet up for a coffee or whatever and go to a bookshop to buy books on Kundalini. And so you were like, here's my hotel, come meet me here. I was like, okay, cool, no problem.
And my hotel, by the way, the whole lobby, all the artwork on the walls, which I never noticed before, are snakes. Yeah. And Kundalini is represented by a snake because of the way it's coiled like a serpent.
Yep.
Yeah. So whenever I see snakes now, I think of Kundalini. You'll start to notice them more because you're in the energy. So I didn't even realize this. The whole hotel was like covered in snake-themed
And you'd
wallpaper.
stay there, what, 10 times before?
Yeah, I'd stayed there so many times. It was like the hotel I always went to. And this is the first time I noticed it. And I was like, wait a second, there's like snakes all over the walls.
Yeah. So I show up at the hotel and I like walk in the door and I text you and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And you were like, okay, hold on 1 second. I'm in the bathroom or something. Like, just give me a second. I was like, okay, no problem. So I was just waiting downstairs. And then finally you come down and it looked like you had been crying. And I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And you were like, I'm so sorry. That guy just ended things with me over text. And I was like, what? And the second that you texted me that you were here, like the exact same moment.
It was the same exact moment. And I think the synchronicity of it all is so, now I'm looking back and I'm like, that is the craziest thing ever. But at the time I was in a state of panic because this man that I had basically flown to see, who had just visited me in New York and was like love bombing the shit out of me. He deaded me when I got there. He was just like, yeah, I don't feel the same. Something's off, whatever. And I felt it was off. And my body, it's so crazy because when I landed in London, my body felt like it was on fire. I just had all of this fire energy going through my body and I felt like some shit was about to go down. I knew that the energy between me and that guy had changed and I knew it was going to end before it ended. Because women just know your intuition, everything. But physically, I felt ill. Like my whole body was burning up to the point where I was taking ice and putting it all over my body.
You were like, I am eating ice. I am bathing in ice. Like I'm burning.
I ordered a bucket of ice and I didn't have a fever. It wasn't a fever. It was just these intense hot flashes. I was literally putting ice on my skin to calm it down because I was having some sort of physical reaction to seeing this person. Then when I saw him, I knew something was wrong. He had either definitely been with someone else or he was lying to me about something. And I was like, this is fucking weird. And the moment he ended things with me, you walked into my hotel.
Wild.
It was the same moment. It couldn't have been more divine timing.
And
And I felt bad because I was like a mess seeing you. I didn't want to see you like that. I was like, oh my God, this guy just broke up with me. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Kundalini is fire and is fire energy. And so when you work with this energy a lot and you do a lot of this healing, it is normal to feel like literal fire moving through your body. You're breathing fire, your heart's on fire. And then again, when you also just become much more physically sensitive to energy, your body just knew that something. And you are particularly like clairsentient. Like you
Yeah.
really feel things when something's off. You feel it in your body and in your physicality for sure.
I definitely noticed that, especially being in Bali, I have tapped more into my psychic abilities. I channel things through my gut.
Yeah.
Like my stomach will immediately feel off if I'm around someone that's not right for me, or I'll physically just have some sort of reaction. Now that I'm more tapped into it and I understand it better, with my ex, I was manifesting all these physical illnesses, and I would get excruciating heart pain to the point where I was getting like EKG scans
Oh my
on my
God.
heart, thinking that I was having a heart attack when I was like 28 years old. Meanwhile, it was just because he was so bad for me, and he was the one accompanying me to the doctor's appointments. This
my
man was the
God.
reason I was having spiritual heart attacks.
Yeah.
They were spiritual heart attacks. I'm coining that as a new term.
Trademark office.
Yeah, because we need to go to the trademark office after this episode. Because, like,
Don't steal our ideas.
no, because people can be so bad for your physical health because they're bad for your spiritual health. Wild. It's just wild. But we need to do another episode because I feel like we could talk for like 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Just so many
good,
things.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this. It felt like
you.
5 minutes. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Date Yourself Instead. I love you guys. If you haven't already, be sure to rate the podcast on Apple and Spotify. If you enjoyed this episode, if you loved Isabel, you could always send her a message. What's your Instagram?
Isabel Keating Healing.
She's amazing. If you're interested in learning more about Kundalini, you could always send her a message on Instagram. And you could always send me a message on Instagram as well, at Liz, or on the podcast account at Date Yourself Instead. And if you haven't already, be sure to also check out my new masterclass, The Mind, Body, Soul Reset. It's available now worldwide for download. I love you guys. Thank you again, and stay tuned for next Monday.